In this episode, we're going to dive into the world of dopamine addiction and how our dopamine hits are actually driving down our natural ability to calm ourselves, increasing chronic stress in our life, and pushing us closer and closer to burnout. Well, I just did a 10-day digital detox, and I want to share with you how I feel and how you can help yourself by doing the same. So let's dive in and learn how dopamine is actually hurting us. Dentists, are you ready to take your practice to the next level? Direct to USA, the North American arm of Direct to Dental Group, brings you innovative, high-quality products from around the world, designed to improve both your technique and patient outcomes. We're more than just products. We're a partner in your success. With a solution-based approach and expert-backed innovation, Direct to USA helps you provide the best care possible. Better products mean better dentistry. Visit them today at directtousa.com. I am so excited to announce the launch of an innovative new product from Vista Apex Solutions called the Endocator. The Endocator is the first ever chair-side device that actually allows you to verify and test whether your canals are clean before you obturate. Utilizing ATP as a biomarker, this device is able to let you know that the canals are clean before finishing a case. How valuable is that? Visit Vista Apex Solutions at vistaapex.com to learn more about the Endocator. Because remember, you can't see clean on an x-ray. Welcome back to On the Cusp. I'm your host, Dr. Brett Gilbert, and I'm here for a solo episode that's really powerful and personal, but something I know can really help you. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge that the burnout, the stress, all of those things that we feel, it's real. It's different for all of us. I mean, there's no question about that. The circumstances, the realities, the pressures, the stressors, they vary from person to person, but they say it's the same devil, different details. So ultimately, we're all kind of living in this very stressful environment as clinicians, not to mention the chaos and the distraction of the world around us, especially in the digital age. And so I recently did an experiment personally that I'm really excited to share because it was really powerful. And that was, I had an opportunity to take a long vacation, about 10 days. And during those 10 days, I shut out my devices. No iPad, no phone. And ultimately, I experienced something very powerful. And I want to share that with you because I'm not saying that we should live our life without devices. I think they are essential in our life in many ways. But the overuse and the addiction to them, that's a whole different story. So first and foremost, I want to share this book that I've been reading called How to Calm Your Mind by Chris Bailey. This happened to be just the perfect companion to my experiment of putting down my phone, my iPad, my computer, and really starting to soak in what nature brought to me. And granted, I was in a beautiful space in the world. We went to the Seychelles, which is northeast of Africa in the Indian Ocean. So just a beautiful place to be. And the nature was extremely healing for me. But without the phone in place, without the iPad, without the computer, I found that my natural calming system started to kick in. And that's what's interesting about Chris's book. So in this book, he really highlights how the dopamine hits that we get from our phone, that we crave, that we are literally addicted to, have really changed how the neurotransmitters in our brain are working. And so what I want to share with you is kind of my experience. First and foremost, a few ground rules. I think if you're going to shut out your technology, it's important to do so in a safe space. So I want to be clear that I was with my wife, I was with my two daughters. I knew that if anyone truly needed to reach me, they could reach me. And that's number one. Because feeling like you're off the grid and you're unreachable when you have so much responsibility and so many people that depend on you, that can be more stressful than this is worth. So first and foremost, if you're going to embark on a digital detox, and I'm going to make some suggestions about very short-term opportunities as well as the longer term, like I took for 10 days, is always have a safe space. Always let the people that are most important to you, that might need to reach you, make sure they have someone who they can get in touch with. That's first and foremost. That gave me tremendous comfort. But then, as I'm reading the book, Chris starts to talk about just how the dopamine hits that we get from checking our email, from checking text messages, from checking likes, checking follows, checking comments, even just the scrolling and just getting those sort of hits of that dopamine surge, which in the moment feels good, feels relaxing, feels like you're like unwinding. But in reality, cumulatively, they are very, very detrimental. And part of it is just neurotransmitter science. The idea that as the dopaminergic addiction, the dopaminergic system, the network in your brain, as it's being fed more and more and more dopamine, what it's actually doing is it's counterbalancing what is actually considered the here and now network. So our brains have a dopaminergic network, right? And we know what that feels like. Think about when you get a text message. Think about when you go to check your email the 10th time in the last couple of hours. You're looking for that little hit when you see the little indicator light up that you've got a comment or a like or what have you. And then on the flip side, the here and now network, which is more of your serotonin, your oxytocin, these are the feel good chemicals. These are the chemicals of essentially calm and connection. The fact is that the dopamine network actually stifles out and is actually in contradiction to the here and now network. So while we're feeding ourselves and getting these dopamine hits, we're not only sort of feeding that network, but we're shutting down the natural calming network that's inside of us. And so what I found was immediately within a day of being off of my phone is I started to feel calmer. And I want to be clear that what Chris Bailey in this book talks about is that we all have sort of this burnout threshold. We have acute stress in our life, like, oh my gosh, there's a fire, or oh my God, someone's coming to get me. That's actually healthy stress. That's short term. That's meant to motivate you, to energize you, to get you moving. But then there's the chronic stressors. And as clinicians, we have so many. And I've spent so many years now talking about burnout and stress and, daily habits and practices to help counterbalance that. And those are critical, fundamental parts of living. But what I'm realizing is that within that threshold, think about stacking your stresses. And then at the top of my head is actually my threshold for burnout. So for most days and months, we have some space here to work with. Right now, if you get sick or something happens in your family or something very stressful comes up, that threshold gets filled very quickly and now you're back at burnout. But what I've learned through this process and through this book is that a lot of the chronic stress is dopaminergic hits. It is the addiction to the phone, to the technology. And so as a clinician, especially on those very busy days, and I talk about it a lot in the podcast, in my posts, if you're ever at a lecture of mine, talk about just sort of that feeling at the end of the day where you're just exhausted and you're just washed out. And a lot of times what we wind up doing is we go home and we start scrolling on our phone, or we get really engaged in the social media. We're checking our email. And what I'm finding in counterbalancing this dopaminergic system is that if we can eliminate much of that, we can actually take that threshold to burnout and expand it significantly. We always want a little bit of a buffer. But unfortunately, we're all pretty much right here and we're bouncing back and forth. This is burnout. This is approaching burnout. Well, what if we had more space? So when something happens in your life, I've made it really clear in the podcast, my mom has just passed away. We went through a whole ordeal. Well, that filled my threshold right up. But what if I had more space? And so I want to describe that taking away, and I don't mean forever, but for an hour, for an afternoon, maybe you come home from work, you send out whatever messages you need and you shut your phone off. Put it wherever you charge it and you don't touch it until you wake up in the morning. But giving yourself a chance to eliminate some of the dopamine hits so that your here and now network can start to activate, can start to grow. And so now what I'm experiencing has been powerful. I've been back at work for 2 weeks and I'm sensing this feeling of calm, a calm that I haven't felt in a very, very long time. And I have now been back again, like I said, about 2 weeks. I have now been very, very intentional about limiting the amount of time I'm spending on my phone, my computer, my tablet. And I'm finding that that calm is being sustained. So what I'm trying to convey here is I think there's a tremendous underestimation of how we feel as burnt out clinicians and how we're spending our time just taking in and absorbing that dopamine hit. And if you can take some of that away, maybe this clinical life isn't as stressful as we think it is. Maybe the reason it's getting harder and harder and harder is because of the distractions and the media and all the phone usage that we don't even realize we're engaging in so much more than we were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so we think about 25 years ago when a clinician went home from their office, they would get on the couch. Maybe they read a book, looked at the paper, right? They were not as distracted and stressed out. And so let's be really mindful of the fact that the dopamine hits that we are craving, and in the moment, as we're getting them, they feel good. They feel really good, too good. But ultimately, what they're doing is they're shutting down our natural ability to calm ourselves. And I can tell you that having experienced this natural level of calm for me, and for those of you who know me, I'm always moving. I'm always creating something. I'm always trying to accomplish something. I'm always trying to serve in some way. I'm always busy. And with that, the level of stress and anxiety has been growing inside of me. And I never really thought to myself, I knew that the phone and, you see everyone's on their phones constantly, and it seemed more of like a distraction, but I didn't understand the neurochemistry of it. The idea that the dopamine hits are powerful, strong, and they actually shut down the serotonin and the oxytocin. And so let's get a better balance. Let's recognize that on those days when you have a really busy clinical day, so much stimuli, so much super stimuli, so much focus, concentration, that those would be specifically days that it would be ideal to shut your phone down instead of using it as a numbing device. So recognize that the less we are taking in these dopamine hits, the more the natural here and now network in our brain can activate and create that calmer feeling. And I can tell you that it feels really, really good. And I'm noticing it more and more. And I'm recognizing that as I'm getting calmer, my productivity in the office, my clinical enjoyment of what I'm doing is growing. And if I had told you before my trip and before this detox that I did, that I would have said the opposite. I would have just said, I feel so pressed, so stressed. And yes, I'm accomplishing the procedures and I'm doing it in excellence. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I'm just exhausted. Well, now I'm finding that I'm feeling more energized. So I just wanted to share this episode first and foremost to make a definite recommendation. This is a really great book, How to Calm Your Mind. I've got notes coming out. I've got earmarks here. I think that when you start thinking and talking about dopamine and you start thinking and talking about burnout, you have to put those together because chronic stress is the thing that we actually can probably control. We can limit the amount of chronic stress by simply being more mindful, intentional, and more minimal in how much we take in these dopamine hits. And when you start to recognize it, like any addiction, it becomes a lot easier to recognize how you can help yourself. And so if you are a busy clinician, if you are feeling stressed out, if you are teetering back and forth in and out of burnout, do yourself a favor, start to detox. Do it for an hour, do it for 3 hours, do it for an evening, maybe do it for a weekend, and just see how your natural calming neurotransmitters start to make you feel more like yourself. And so I wanted to share this. I hope that you guys will take this with whatever it will do to help you serve yourself, to help you feel better, because I realize how much of a gift it is to be a clinician and how incredibly skilled we are and how much we can help people. But when we're doing it at the detriment of ourselves, it just feels bad. And I've been through so much in my career, now 23 years, and I've been through so much stress and burnout, and I'm on to something right now. And that's why I wanted to share it. The idea that we may be overstimulating ourselves, creating a layer of chronic stress that's pushing us toward that burnout threshold that we absolutely have control of. And not only do we just eliminate that chronic stress by curtailing or being more discriminate in our usage and the dopamine we're getting, but we actually, in doing so, start to activate and rev up that here and now network that will naturally make us feel calmer. So if you have any questions, comments, if you have any ideas around this, if you want any help, if you want to just talk or chat about it, please hit me up. You can reach me through Instagram. You can reach me on my email. It's all listed in the show notes. I hope that you will take this and consider how you might be able to help yourself feel calmer and recognize the benefits of that for your own internal feeling, for how you show up in the household, for how you show up in your practice. And then ultimately, and the most important part, which I talk about a lot, is how you show up back at home after being in your practice. And if you could show up with calm, with some energy, with empathy, and with the idea that you have still a lot of room and space to spend time and enjoyment with your family, how valuable would that be to you? So sending you lots of love. Thank you for being here with On the Cusp. We'll see you inside the next episode. And please do me a favor, do yourself a favor, cut out some of that dopamine and see what magic unfolds. See you in the next episode.